The purpose of this video is to kind of help borrowers understand what is going to happen when they apply for loss mitigation. So as you guys know by now, if you've been watching other videos, loss mitigation is kind of the broad term for applying for something from your lender when you're in default. The most common loss mitigation options are a loan modification, a short sale, a deed in lieu, a repayment plan. Those are all forms of loss mitigation. And all forms of loss mitigation typically require a complete financial package. That is phase one. Phase one is a document review phase, and the goal of phase one is to get a complete package. The reason that's the goal is because there are guidelines out there that say that lenders are allowed to deny you or not review you or stop your review if you don't submit a complete package. So this has given the lender a lot of leeway to decide on their own kind of what means complete, what's incomplete, what's not complete. And so I can't tell you how many borrowers I get calls from who send in everything. They send in an application, all their financial information, and the lender continues to tell them, it's not complete, it's not complete. Or I get borrowers who send in everything, they assume it's complete, they did everything they can, and the file gets deemed incomplete on the lender's end. So your job as a borrower is to make 100% sure that you stay on top of the lender. If you're gonna do your loss mitigation request by yourself, you stay on top of it until you get that confirmation from the bank that the file has been deemed complete. The best thing you can do to help deem your file complete is to call them and ask them that question specifically. Lenders will say lots of things to you. They will say your file's in review, your file has been assigned to someone. They'll tell you the file's being worked on. They'll tell you you have a single point of contact. All of this is good information, but it doesn't often answer the question as to, has my file been deemed complete? So call, ask that question, get them to tell you yes. My recommendation is once you hear the yes, that my file is complete, you call a couple more times and speak to a couple other people just to make sure it is deemed complete across the board. It's 100% complete, confirmed by multiple different people. Anytime I receive information from a lender, it is standard practice for me to call 2 more times to get the same information confirmed. That's how I know it's spread across the lender's system and is absolutely 100% what's going on. Another pitfall borrowers fall into in this completion process is assuming that if you get a document request from the lender, that's a complete document request. So this is what this means. Let's say you send in your package, you do a good job, you call within 48 hours and the lender's like, hey, your file's not complete, we need, and then they tell you 3 things that they need. Borrowers will go, they'll get the 3 things, they'll send it back, and then they'll be like, cool, I'm done, my file's complete. Not necessarily. Lenders are allowed to request different items multiple times, and they often don't give you a comprehensive list of what is missing the first time you call. So even if they request missing items, and even if you send back those missing items, one day later, they could find something else that's missing. And so just because you've sent back missing items doesn't mean you're done. You need to be calling every 48 hours minimum until the lender gives you that confirmation that the file has been deemed complete. That's what you're looking for. Another kind of common pitfall borrowers get trapped in is this ever expiring bank statement, pay stub, what I call like mumbo jumbo. So as you guys know, pay stubs, let's just say somebody gets a pay stub every month, right? Or every 2 weeks. Bank statements come out usually monthly or every 30-day period. So what'll happen is when you send in your financial package, it's very possible that the bank statements and the pay stubs are totally current. However, lenders are so busy, and document processors at the lender are the most busiest of everyone. It probably takes the lender like 2 weeks to upload the documents and review the bank statements and pay stubs. And so what can happen is during that 2-week review period, you sent in a complete package, but then they didn't look at it until the point where you have one of those recurring documents expired. And so if it takes 2 weeks for them to review it, they're going to mark the file as incomplete because there will have been a new pay stub or a new bank statement issued within that amount of time. So as a good borrower, what you need to do is be proactive about sending in your bank statements and your pay stubs as soon as they become available to keep the file current, even if the bank isn't requesting those documents. Waiting on the bank to request them means you run the risk of getting trapped in this never-ending document cycle. Because if you wait for them to say, we need your pay stub, you send in the pay stub, it'll then take another 2 weeks to get them to review it, and another pay stub might come available. And so sometimes I get calls from borrowers who've been struggling with their lender for several months because they're in this like never-ending expiration process with these recurring documents. So as you know from other videos on this page, you need to have the most recent 60 days bank statements and the most recent 30 days pay stubs if you have W-2 income to have a complete loss mitigation package. So if you have one of these income structures or these bank statements that continue to have new ones issued, just take the responsibility on yourself and send them in new, right? Every time they become available, send them in to continue to keep your package moving toward that complete deadline. Another thing that kind of gets borrowers is when the lender starts requesting things that don't exist. So if you're trying to get a complete package, let's say, and the lender issues a missing document list, and let's say one of the things on the missing document list is pay stubs, and you're like, hey, I'm a borrower, I have income, but they're not pay stubs. Maybe you receive SSI, and maybe you have your own business and you have profit and loss income. Or maybe you have some other form of income that's not pay stubs. So if the lender tells you your file is incomplete, I need a pay stub, a common trap that borrowers fall into, which is completely reasonable, is to say, hey, those don't exist, so I have nothing to send in, so let's just not send anything in. That runs a high risk of getting your file continually deemed incomplete and eventually denied. What the lender is doing is they have little boxes in their system where they have to like check a box that says they uploaded something. And so if you get a customer service representative who doesn't review your package in a complete manner or doesn't understand what's going on, you might have a pay stub box not be able to be checked. Then you need to provide the lender something that they can attach to that box in their system to let them know that that's been addressed. So if you get a request for something that doesn't exist, like pay stubs, and you don't work in a W-2 job, so you don't have pay stubs, you can't, as a borrower, just not send anything back. What you need to do is write a letter of explanation and tell the bank directly, I do not receive pay stubs, I do not have a W-2 job, please refer to my, and then tell them whatever you already submitted. Please refer to my SSI award letter and my profit and loss income as my main sources of income, or something like that. So if they request anything that doesn't exist, that's okay. It means they're confused, but it also means that you need to address that by sending a letter of explanation. There are going to be a couple links at the bottom of this video for some template letter of explanations if you need to do that. So overall, the point of this is to just talk about basically what I call phase 1 of 2 phases of loss mitigation reviews, and that is getting your package complete. And I'll just throw in, the last thing to do is submit only what the bank needs. Sometimes borrowers send in like hundreds of pages of other documents that they think will be helpful. You really want to limit what you're submitting to just what the lender's asking for, which is typically your application and your financial package. There's other videos that go through that in detail, but typically your application, your financial documents, that makes your complete package. You send that in, and then you want to send it in a format that the bank will easily like to use, and that's typically an Adobe PDF file. Sending in Word documents, sometimes things can get kind of jumbled, and so my recommendation is that you work to turn your documents into kind of non-editable PDF files, and then you want to fax them or email them directly to the loss mitigation department. So if you don't know where to email them, call your lender and say, I have and then tell them like short sale package or loan modification, or I'm applying for a whatever, deed in lieu, and then say what is the fax number or email address of your loss mitigation department. So you send them in a PDF format, in the correct format, try to fill them out correctly. There's videos to fill them out correctly. And then once you send in your package, you call them up every 48 hours, make time, sit on hold. If you don't have time to do that, that's a good time to speak to an attorney in your state or to find somebody who can help you get through that process, because sending your documents in and just sitting back and hoping that they deem the file complete will waste a lot of time, and in some cases will push you closer to foreclosure. So take a lot of responsibility. Don't trust that the lender can do everything correctly from the beginning, and stay on top of it until you get the continual confirmation that your file is complete. Good luck.